All right, it's 11:02. We've got 28 folks on the call. 29. Number keeps growing. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Caroline. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
We are going to go ahead and get started. My name is Dr. Ben Howdige. I work at Inland Empire Health Plan, Manager of Integrated Transitional Care. I also have the privilege to be the founding board chair of the Inland Coalition on Aging. So I get to be the host today, but really you, the collaborative members, the coalition members, are the key players in everything that we do here in the Inland Empire. So I just want to acknowledge you really quick. I've been getting updates and hearing about all the action teams, and it's just amazing everything. We're going to schedule a meeting soon. Would love to just kind of meet with you and say thank you for all that you're doing, get updates about what's going on, and see if there's anything that the board can do to assist you, help you, because we're coming up on a year of rolling out our Inland Empire Master Plan for Aging. That's definitely a celebration, and we definitely want to share updates to the community. So we'll be scheduling something in the fall to update the entire community about all the work that you, the coalition, has done, the action teams, and of course, thanks to Elizabeth Bogumil, who's our consultant and leading those efforts with the group. So thank you, Elizabeth, and thanks to our board also. Of course, Carmen Estrada is our board treasurer, also co-chair of the Inland Empire Master Plan committees, and also executive director of Inland Caregiver Resource Center. But I want to do a quick icebreaker. So I'm going to put this question in the chat. Or Janelli, could you do me a favor? Put this question in the chat. What is the best part of growing older? What is the best part of growing older? If you could answer that question in the chat, we'll take a few people to answer that verbally also. But first, if you'd like to put it in the chat or you'd like to express it verbally, we'd love to hear from you. As you know, this Inland Inland Coalition on Aging is all about aging, not just older adults, but aging as a person with a disability, aging as a caregiver, all of these folks who work in this space, who provide services to older adults, people with disabilities, and caregivers. When we say aging, that's what we're referring to. All of us aging. Actually, everybody's aging, right? Raise your hand if you're aging. Who here is aging? Oh, good, good. I'm glad you're aging. That's a good sign, right? But there's lots of positive things about growing older, experiencing life, and the research says that if we have a positive outlook on life, we live longer. 7 point something years, I forgot, but more than 7 years longer, and obviously it would be better quality of life during those years. So it's important to think about what's the best part of growing older, right? Having a positive attitude, looking forward to the future. I'm certainly looking forward to. I have a 1 month old granddaughter, first granddaughter, so there's lots of stuff that I'm looking forward to. So
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. I hope you are also thinking about intentionally growing older. It's never too late. Actually, the sooner you start thinking about it, the better, right? Because if you think about being an older adult, it can be 10, 20, 30 years. That part of life can be as, 30 years. And to not plan for a third of your life, it's just a missed opportunity. So I'm planning, I'm thinking, I'm either going to play the guitar, learn the guitar soon, maybe in the fall, or a piano. I'm excited. My family, my daughter, my son, my wife also want to learn something new. So I hope you are looking forward to growing older. So anybody want to share verbally, what are you looking forward to as you age? What's the best part of growing older? Anybody verbally? And then we'll look at the comments.
I have two of them.
Yes, Angela.
Now that you mentioned the grandbaby, so that's another one that I'll look forward to, but also the discounts, the senior citizen discounts.
Absolutely. Yep. August, I'm claiming my 55 and over discounts. Absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else? Pick two more people. What's the best part of growing older?
I like what Dakota said.
What did Dakota say?
I'll say yes, what Dakota said.
Yes.
Just this
Yes.
idea of I don't have time to put up with that right now, because I'm running out of time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Let's see. We've got on here choosing my own pace and grandchildren. Love that. Life experiences. Yes. Experience and wisdom, not having to put up with people's stuff, memories and opportunities, grandchildren. Amber, did you want to share?
I would say uh, gaining the wisdom and having the ability to help the younger generation navigate the most difficult parts of life.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Jorge, I see spending your time with a special person, people in your life. Absolutely. More opportunities to grow in wisdom. There's just so many. I could go on and on and on, right? But thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Today we are very excited. We have a great presentation for you. Of course, it is aligned, very aligned with the goals of the coalition, with the master plan for aging. And I'm just going to turn it over because I've already taken more than enough time. We have today with us. Oh, where'd she go? There she is. We have with us Marie Kluker. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing it right. I'm gonna allow her to just to take it over and tell you share the wonderful information she has for you. Afterwards, we will be sending the presentation to you, so stay with us throughout. And then afterwards, we have some updates. Elizabeth's going to give us some updates about the action team's exciting information. We've gotten a new grant we want to share with you guys. That's exciting. Oh, wait, sorry. No, we can't say it yet. Oops.
You've already said it.
We'll be sharing with you good
You
news
can.
next time we meet.
We can
Sorry.
share it already.
Oh, we can? Fantastic. I'll let Carmen, our treasurer, share in just a bit. But exciting news, exciting stuff coming, not only today, but in as we age, right? So I'm gonna let Marie take it over. Thank you, Marie, for joining us, and take it away.
Happy to. Thanks. Thanks so much, everyone, for welcoming me here. I am just getting my vision right here. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I am joining you from the East Coast. I work at McLean Hospital. It's an all-psychiatric hospital, part of the Mass General Brigham System and Harvard Medical School affiliated, just outside of Boston. I have family in more Northern California, but happy to be connected with you all. And I'm speaking today, really, it's a pleasure because we're talking, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we all work in aging. And, part of my work, my clinical work, I'm a licensed clinical social worker by training. I direct our GUIDE program, which is the new Medicare dementia benefit. And I also lead our caregiver therapy services. So I see both older adults, and most of my clinical work is directly with dementia caregivers. And but another part of my work, in addition to the clinic and clinical care, is to work with partnerships with various organizations, often training people in how to better intervene with older adult mental health. And these are both clinical teams of social workers, nurse practitioners, and so on, who are kind of upskilling specifically in dementia care. But most of the partnerships that we do are with lay people who work in the aging field. And what we know, as both for people working in mental health as clinicians and those who aren't, there's just not enough to go around. And so rather than kind of give this overview from the East Coast about what you do on the West Coast, I just wanted to kind of build this feeling of solidarity that we who serve older adults and we know their mental health challenges are often caught of really feeling the sting of these limitations, and how can we deal with that while still supporting our older adults. So that's what the topic is today. So I will be covering both giving us a context of those limitations, both they feel often personal, like I can't do enough, but they're really tied to the systemic issues. So looking at that and recognizing, defining some of the distress that comes with that I think we can all feel solidarity about. And then I will, though, want to give you all some evidence-based framework that we use. I'll just give kind of the first layer primer since we are just at an intro level, I think, with timing here, of how we can communicate, stay connected with our older adult, even while discussing those limitations or boundaries. So we know the prevalence of mental health in older adults is about 1 in 5. It can be closer to like 1 in 4 across the US. And we know that even with these numbers, well, first of all, I'll just say, for all of us here, for the people that we serve, while it's 1 in 5, maybe for most of the organizations I work with, it feels like a lot even more prevalent than that. Working with folks in the AAAs, they'll say, nearly 100% of their caseload of their older adults have mental health challenges. But even so, these numbers that we have at the kind of national statistics level are probably under-recognized, underdiagnosed, an issue that we really face in our hospital system, where we get people who have kind of not been listened to by their primary care, not been able to be served. Mental health is the leading cause of disability in older adults. And of those large numbers of people with mental health issues, fewer than 50% access mental health support in the last year of older adults. And part of that is, with this quote here, I shouldn't need help. Some of it is tied to the stigma of mental health and stigma particularly with older adults who may feel that mental health is not something that they would talk about and feel ashamed to need help in that way. I should be able to do this. I should just be able to rely on other people. I don't need a professional for this. But the other part of this low access is just the numbers of practitioners. So talking about introducing here this concept of moral distress and how does this come about? There's distress in aging in general. We know that it's hard to age. I have someone I worked with actually just this morning, and just this line, she's getting old is not for the faint of heart. There's growing older brings its own challenges that we know of, both health challenges and limitations, fewer things they might be able to do. Retirement can bring a smaller circle, can lead to isolation, as well as losses, both again of abilities, but also of people in their lives. Fewer challenges with mobility, fixed income, all these things are kind of like way down on an older adult as they age. But we put that in a much bigger societal context, and I call this the inverse pyramid, the distress of aging and of mental health. And so, historical context, we have never had this many older adults ever in human history. And they talk about the silver tsunami as this like problem, but in fact, we have so many older adults because things have gone right. We got a lot of things right. We've been working for all of humankind to work on health, prevention, primary care didn't used to be a thing, and it is now, and it's saved lives. General health concerns, our ability to have vaccinations that keep people alive. We can't both say that it was progress to keep people alive, but it's a problem that we have so many old people. They have to be one and the same. And yet the societal beliefs, this next level down, there's an ageism that comes with that still exists, that we see aging as a problem, and there are limitations, but rather than really the great human feat that it is. Likewise, our healthcare system really hasn't caught up. We know that Medicare and Medicaid which is what funds most of people's healthcare in their older age, is the least desired health insurance because it reimburses at such low rates. And then availability of resources, particularly for older adults. If we think about other categories of things, if I want a book, I can go to a public library. I can get all the books I want to read, and there's still plenty of books for everyone else. If I want to go to the grocery store, we are very fortunate that in this country, if we go to the grocery store, I can get all I need from my whole family for multiple weeks, plenty of food on the shelves. But when we talk about resources for older adults, that is simply not the case. We don't have enough to even serve the people, give enough to the people who we already know, let alone the people who aren't already in our care. And we often have to choose between I give my time to this person or that person, but there's not enough to go around. And then for certainly family and community support, families are more spread out than they ever have. Communities are often not integrated with older adults. They're sectioned off. And so, here is this big inverse pyramid that sits down on an older adult. And this is what makes aging hard, particularly hard, is the whole inverse that's flipped. And then for us as folks who work in aging, we watch on and we see the distress in older adults, but also then we kind of like wrap around them when we give them services, and we feel this weight of the context that we're in, as well as there's stress that comes from interacting with the older adult themselves. And so the distress that we're talking about, where we kind of there's not enough for us to give, and that sometimes older adults, including with mental health challenges, it can be stressful to work with them. There are challenges that arise that make our job feel hard, and that doesn't feel good. And that feeling that we have of having limitations of what we can give to people is called moral distress. Moral distress is the suffering right here that people experience when they're unable to act or to give according to what they value or their ethical beliefs due to internal, external constraints. And that really takes a couple of forms. These two columns, or one on the left in the blue, and when providers feel that we feel moral distress, we feel they're prevented from providing necessary interventions. So I think this will probably ring true for many of you. We, maybe make some referrals or suggestions to a senior, but they refuse them, or they just don't follow through. Or in the contrary, you say, here's a resource, and then you come to find out there's a 6-month, year-long wait, and you're like, this isn't helpful. This feels really bad. Or, something like a person who struggles with mental health may lead to housing troubles and even to an eviction. And you know that you're just like not going to be able to find them housing. And we know that this is not the way it should be. And yet we're unable to provide more. One source of moral distress. The other one is to feel pressure to provide interventions that we don't fully agree with. Often we run into this when, for instance, there's a significant safety concern. We have to make an adult protective services report, which is the right thing to do. And yet there can be a part of us that wonders, is this even going to help? And it costs our relationship. It can jeopardize that. Sometimes there's someone who calls you, you have other things to do. They say, you're the only one who really listens and cares. And so you stay on, even though you have other things to do, even though this isn't the best use of your time, but gosh, you just kind of, you're stuck. Or for those of you who work at senior centers, there are times when people bring someone with dementia who this is not really the right setting for them, but gosh, that family just, they don't have any other options. And so we feel this pinch. This is moral distress. It comes, I think all of us feel it. And it's the reality of the work that we do and the many challenges. So moving on to, how do we engage with these limitations and set boundaries even when it causes us some distress? I'm going to read a couple of scenarios here that then we'll work to add a little framework that I often help people utilize in their work. So scenario one, in your role, some of you, this may not be as applicable. We can imagine ourselves in there. You're arranging for a senior with anxiety and PTSD to take a transport van shopping for a midday pickup, or maybe to an appointment. And she often calls the day before to change her time, no matter what time she's been given. And while shopping, she almost always asks for more time, which historically has led to the rest of the day's schedule being delayed for other van users. And as usual, she calls and really demands a morning slot. So we're a little stuck here. Scenario two, this may be familiar to others, doing a home visit with a senior with depression who also needs help with a form. And once you finish reviewing the form, she asks about another topic, and you answer as you gather your papers. And then she starts to hook you with kind of story after story of the difficulty she's facing, but you really have to get back to the office. But, there's a part of you can hear how challenging her life has been, and you know that she's lonely. You feel kind of stuck. So these sound like familiar scenarios to people. I see some head nods. So what are we to do? I think going back to one is just to, in McLean, we being psychiatric, we're often talk about feelings, and I want people to kind of like think about when you're in these, what are the feelings that arise? There are feelings of both one, compassion, usually. We feel for this person. This is why we do what we do. Uh, Both a transport person, we know what it's like to plans change and you kind of need to be accommodated, or also the feeling that, they've lost their independence and so it doesn't feel good. You really want to help accommodate people. On the other side, um, if we're being really, really honest, it can feel like a pain. Like this always happens. Why? And for this senior in scenario 2, feeling like I want to listen to you, but I also want to get out of here, and feeling like if I stay in this second scenario, I'm going to be late. I'm going to be kind of getting back to the office. I'm going to be bustling around and um or maybe I just feel uncomfortable. I'm not sure. I'm not really equipped to handle these stories. And so these are the feelings that we whether you're a clinician or not, often are feeling when we're in this crunched position of um uh, older adult mental health needs or needs in general and the limitations that we have. So what are we to do? If we think about scenario 1 with the van driver or the van person, she wants to change her appointment again. Here's how we sometimes on our not bests, this is sometimes what happens to us. Some hello, I have a transportation time next week that is not going to work for me. I need it to be changed. And on our not best day, we might say like, well, a little uncertain. I'm not sure if we can change it. We're kind of like feeling that pinch, and this person turns up the heat pretty quickly. Well, I have an appointment that day. It can't be rescheduled unless I wait another 6 months, which I'm not going to do. It has to be in the morning. My appointment's at 2, and there's just so much traffic. Only a morning appointment will work. We hear this, and we start to get a little uncertain. We're like, well, okay, I do have a 10 a.m., but you really have to be on time because it's a full schedule. The driver won't be able to wait for you, right? We're kind of trying to set this boundary, but we're saying like, I'm going to do this for you, but um, what are you calling me irresponsible? I'm calling ahead, aren't I? Oof, right? We're getting heats turned up. I mean, I'm just saying that there have been some situations in the past, like 2 weeks ago when the van was waiting for you and it made the rest of the day late. Now, we're trying to retroactively hold responsibility. We're getting a little caught. Well, it's not my fault that the store ran out of the item I wanted. I was waiting for them to go back into the back room and get it for me. The point of shopping is to get what you need, isn't it? And now, we're just kind of get a punching bag now. Okay, well, you got your morning time that you wanted. We'll see you then. Next time, make sure you check your calendar ahead of time. And now we're like feeling some resentment and we're like not being our necessarily best selves. Of course I will. So I don't have to deal with you again, right? So this is example of how we can kind of go wrong. We're trying to accommodate, and yet as we try to accommodate, even with our limitations, it ends up tying us up like a pretzel. And even if this person weren't so rude, there's a way in which we could feel really kind of like used or resentful of what's going on. And then feel this moral distress again, like I want to give this person a time slot, but also I know this is going to throw off the van ride because it always does. But what was I supposed to do? And so the answer to that question is this framework that I like to use called living big. So living big, which stands for boundaries, integrity, generosity. This framework, Brene Brown, who's also a social worker, written a number of books that they're kind of out in popular press as well. It's from her Rising Strong book. This is one of the frameworks that we can use even in these kinds of situations. We just feel pinched and we feel like we want to be on solid ground despite that we have limitations. So it's about setting boundaries, and I apply it for this kind of work. So for living big, the way we actually implement it is to implement it backwards: generosity, integrity, boundaries. But living give just doesn't have the same ring to it. So living big, I'm going to walk you through this and scenario, try to apply it, and then we'll have some time to also hear a little bit of cases, and then we'll pass it back to the coalition for the exciting announcements. So for implementing this, generosity, integrity, boundaries. The first one, generosity, I think of it as a funnel. So this is when we find ourselves in this moment where you are, someone wants to change their appointment. You get a phone call, this person who calls you like 10 times a day, and they show up on your phone. You're like, what am I going to do here? So starting with generosity, which is, this is my most generous interpretation of the other's intentions. And I have some quotes here. These are the kinds of things that one can say to yourself when you are trying to get into that more generous mode. And I think about it as a funnel. It's a way that we hold our whole selves and try to hold other people. Some examples are to get us into that main state. What if they're doing the best that they can? You know, how would I approach this if this is what I believed? Or telling myself, you know, if it were simple to get out of this situation, if they could have just called ahead of time, they probably would have done that. So it must be more complicated than that. You know, giving them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Or reminding yourself, this is a good person having a hard time. And if we need to like step it up even more, and they're maybe using a tool or a way of communicating with me that has served them well in the past, well enough in the past, even if it's not fit for this current situation. You know, kind of helping us to feel like there's usually reasons why people get kind of prickly. They probably had to protect themselves and it probably served them well. And so it kind of gets us into this mentality that we can stand in awe of what people are carrying rather than in judgment of how they're carrying it. So this is the generosity first step. And you see how it like shifts us into a different space, that we're, rather than adversaries against each other, like how can we come by alongside somebody and have that be our stance. Now, we don't stop at generosity because that sets us up as a metaphorical punching bag. If we were just generous with people, we would kind of give everything to everyone, and it just wouldn't work, frankly. But how do we hold? So boundaries come, our limitations, the boundaries come because we want to preserve our generosity that we just expose here. So the way we do that, from the funnel, we catch everything into integrity. Integrity, I think of as a filter. This is what kind of helps me decide how am I going to approach this. So integrity is acting out of my core values. It's also facing the truth of the situation, even when it's difficult. And so often for this integrity stage is we say, like, what do my guiding principles and my responsibilities call me to address? And we'll see this in our scenarios, but we're both responsible to this person and their suffering, but all of us have responsibilities to many other things, including many other people. And so there actually has to be a limit on what I give to this person. When I give to this person means I'm not giving to other people, is one way, but also my values of how do I want to show up here? As someone who's, for instance, doesn't get resentful of the job that I'm supposed to be doing. How do I do that? Is through this integrity piece. What are the real limits that I have to work with? And what's a hard truth that will keep us stuck if we don't address it? If I just kick it down the road, like this van person where I said, this is hard to deal with, I'll just move her anyway. I mean, that the hard truth is there's a limitation here. So that's a filter. And then the last one is boundary. And we often think of, when people think of boundaries, they say a boundary between me and you. I don't think that feels very generous. The way I like to think about boundaries is more like this frame, like on this picture, where a boundary is the frame I set, where I can work with the other person inside and the two of us will be respected. So the boundary is, how do we keep ourselves together rather than, and then if they're outside the boundary, then naturally we're not working together, but not because I don't want to work with them, but they have to come like into the boundary, in the frame that I set. I feel good about what happens in the frame. And it also means that for myself, if someone's outside the frame, I'm not giving my energy towards that. So that's again, that idea of how we protect our generosity is anything in the frame, in the boundary, is where I can be generous. So let's take a look at applying this. So refresher in scenario one, the senior, again, has mental health challenges. Our compassion can go out to them. They have anxiety. And yet she's calling to ask something that hasn't worked out well. So I know here that I'm going to need some boundaries. I need to live big, or live GIB, Gib. So for the scenario, what might happen, if she starts off, she's a little prickly, understandably, we can give her that. I have a shopping time I need, or an appointment that I need to get to. This is not going to work for me. I need it changed. And generosity, if I'm believing, what if she's doing the best she can? I might say, okay, got it. Let's see what we can do to change this. I'm looking at my schedule. She's like, no, not to see if we can change. I have an appointment that day that can't be rescheduled unless I wait another 6 months, which I'm not going to do. In integrity here, first, I often a good question is like, is this a reasonable request? And I think from our generous stance, we can say, this is a reasonable request that she's an appointment she needs to get to. But I'm also, with my integrity, going to hold my responsibilities that I know the van runs according to a schedule. And according to those responsibilities that I have to everyone else in this van, I'm saying that's reasonable. I have you down for 12:30. What time are you looking for? It has to be in the morning. My appointment's at 2:00. There's so much traffic. It can only be in the morning. Okay. This is where I set my boundary, based on my integrity of who I look at my schedule and I don't see that availability. I say, I understand you can't do the 12:30. I'm looking at the schedule and we don't have availability to move you to that morning. Because I know if I give her that 10 a.m. slot, it's going to throw everything off. I just tell her we don't have the availability. This is the boundary. And even if she puts hers back, that's impossible. Betty just scheduled her shopping for the morning and there was space. You're lying. I always knew you were a fake. I mean, she just turned off the heat here. You say you care, but you don't. I can't believe you have the gall to work there, right? I mean, she's like throwing everything at you. And at this point, we're like, oh my gosh, should I like do this? No, we hold the boundary and it can be, hold their emotional value. You're allowed to be upset. I know this isn't the answer you wanted, but since I don't have any other options for you, I think we should end the call, right? This is holding my integrity to the program that I'm protecting. And I can sit with this person, say, you can be mad and you can be disappointed. And this is it. And even if they throw it, you talk all professional, you're such a fake, I see who you are, right? This is like a lot over the top. And what we just say for the boundary is, I'm ending the call now. Goodbye. This is hard. And if we just read through this, like this does give us a sense of there's a lot we're up against. There's only so much I can do. I can feel okay with this. And even with my own clients, where we're explicitly dealing with mental health, there are times where people are kind of like, they want to keep going. And I say, I'm out of time. I know it feels like there's so much more to say. I'm going to hang up now. They're like, well, I just wanted someone that I say, I'm hanging up now. And literally like, we'll hang up the phone like, as they're talking. It is not that I don't get joy from doing that. We talk about it afterwards, but because it comes from this place of generosity, we're doing the best we can. And I have real limitations. This is the boundary I'm setting. And so again, the boundaries are what protect my generosity rather than limiting it. Because when I'm inside that frame, I can give my full self, as opposed to when I go outside the frame, and then I am dreading this next phone call with someone. And then I'm feeling embarrassed about the van driver that I know I just threw off. Like, why did you let them have this, right? Having limitations is not a bad thing. It can allow us to have our integrity. Questions on that? Comments?
Hard.
It is hard. It is hard. But you know what else is hard?
Yeah.
Being all things to all people is also hard, right? I think that's the thing is like when it feels hard to set boundaries, it's not like it feels easy when we've given ourselves away. And then when we end up with like resentment at our job that we love, that's not a good feeling either, right? And so there is a balance here. And the balance again comes not because we're mean people, it comes from that inverse pyramid. If that inverse pyramid were solved from the top down, we wouldn't have so much difficulty. And so that's where, in many ways, I'm like just being a cheerleader here, that it's okay to set boundaries. So I wanted to show again with a kind of a less hot topic, the scenario two. And we'll get into a little discussion as well. That this is where you're doing a home visit. and person, you may hear, or you just hear from their stories that they have some depression, they're lonely, and they're starting to tell you these stories. And at first, we think like, yeah, I'll listen to this story. What can often happen is people, as you're trying to get to leave, it's like, well, maybe I'll tell them another story. And we often feel like it's ratcheting up. And we're like, oh my gosh, I can't leave during this story, but I have to go. And so, what would boundaries look like in this, or living big? Um, for if we're taking our first step is generosity. Generosity is that they're doing the best they can. And so what might I say? I might say something like, you're coping with a lot. And I'm honored that you would share such vulnerable stories with me, right? This is from a place where even if you feel like, I actually don't want to hear these stories, we can honor that of what they're, right? We stand in awe of what they're carrying. And we could probably say that with truth. And our integrity, this is where we're balancing this filter. It's like, I'm here to help you, and this is beyond my scope. And this is where we would communicate something like, I truly hope that you can find comfort and relief with the support in your life. And I'm sorry that I'm not the right person to be able to help you with these issues. That's true. It feels bad that I can't and I'm leaving, but that's also true. And that I would think a key word here that I think can help with this integrity step is the and. I want you to find relief, and I'm really sorry that I'm not the right person. As opposed to if I said, I wanted you to find help, but I'm not the right person, it does feel kind of like negating. When I say and, this is the reality that we're standing together looking out at this big bad world saying, we're together in this, that I'd like to help you and I can't, and that feels bad. And we're side by side with people. And then the boundaries, like we actually do have to set a boundary here of it's our limit. It's like, that's all the time I have for today. And I'm gonna head out. I know it can feel hard to end. Right? It's just I'm standing there with you saying, like, this is hard and I gotta go. And this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of language that we use in our own work, and that we kind of train people across senior centers, again, elder services and AAAs, and other aging agencies to use this big. And this is again just kind of level one of the training. There are many more explicit skills we can give folks on this big. But I wanted to just pause there, knowing our time together, and say, is this if folks want to come off mute even, are there other cases that come to mind, or things that ways that you would want to try to apply these? I just listed here a bunch of scenarios that we often people are asking to apply it to. But I just want to open for, questions and discussion here. David Prats, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, hopefully you can hear me
I
okay.
can, yeah.
Yeah, so I can relate to the two slides, the two scenarios. I work for the city of Yucaipa,
Yeah.
Senior at the senior center, providing senior transportation.
Ah,
So, so we deal with those two scenarios plus more daily. We're a semi-new program. We're the toddler years, so we've been around for about 3 years now.
mhm.
And we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot of patience.
Yes.
We've learned how to rewire, reprogram our thought process before we respond. Because you're right. We had to learn that we need to set boundaries, especially because there's so many different personalities, right? And
Definitely.
then there's different disabilities, and not all are visible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And now we have kind of a small influx, I would say, of seniors with dementia that
Mhm.
we're providing transportation for. So that kind of threw a little curveball at us. And we've had to learn, okay, what is dementia and how do we help that person?
And how do we not help?
exactly, exactly. And then how to
Mhm.
provide safe transportation for both the driver and the rider.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
so again,
David,
yeah, I agree. It's been a challenge, but interesting at the same time. And we have a good crew. I'm the supervisor. We have a good crew, and we're constantly trying to implement some type of learning lesson
Mhm.
during our staff meeting. So we'll pick like dementia again,
Mhm.
for example, and then we'll talk about it. What is this? Things to look for. We know that they like things that are um, not out of the normal, right? They like routine, right?
Routine, yeah, what can they expect? Um,
Exactly.
yeah, and certainly attending to people's emotions. So I
Right.
think this is really great, David. Also, I love hearing that you are have a space and time where people can discuss, because that's often where we learn the most. And also it we need a pause button. We're doing so much. We need a pause button to be able to say, like, how are we doing it? Should we be doing it differently? In what ways should we be doing things? Are there things we need to change?
Right.
Including, like, are there things that are just not working and they're not gonna work? I mean, I really push this idea of limitations because we won't be able to do everything. And admitting that actually helps us to do what we do well. Um, and it is also a direct cause of moral distress to know that there are people, David, that you will not be able to serve with this transportation and you're going to have to say no.
Right.
Feels awful. It feels awful because we say, who
Does.
else is going to do it?
It does.
And and that inverse pyramid is like it becomes our problem. It sits on our head, on your head, sits on your head, and it feels like it's your problem because it's in front of you, but no one above you solved it.
Right.
And so there's this balance of a both and. I can both feel like my responsibility and I might not be able to solve it. I just have to, what we actually have to do is sit with that distress. There's room here for advocacy for sure. Um, this is worthy work to be stressing about. And at the end of the day, to help us sleep at night, there's a part of these say, like, what I'm not going to be able to do is this.
Right. Right. And part of that for us is an example would be we have a van, full van, and then someone raises their hand and says,
Mm.
"Oh, uh, take me to Walgreens or CVS because I forgot my medication, even though it's not scheduled."
Right, right, right.
So,
And this is the kind of thing where, yeah, we
right,
have
right. So it
limitations
kind of
and
it's again, it's setting
yeah,
that
thank
boundary,
you.
those limitations, and we just
Hmm.
our drivers
Yeah,
just explain we have to keep our route.
sure,
We can get dispatch on the radio and maybe try to facilitate some type of schedule, right? But
sure. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
thanks, David. I think we got a lot of people nodding along with you because it's rough. It's tough. Yeah.
it,
Oh, thank you, David. Really appreciate it.
thank
And
you.
thanks for the work you do. Elizabeth, go ahead.
I'm
And then
just
Amber after.
curious from a
Yep.
slightly contrary perspective.
Sure.
As a caregiver, I've recently been on the end of the big model where
Yeah.
I've been asking for support from somebody who is
Yep.
supposed to be providing support within the boundaries of their position,
Yep.
and they weren't. And it
Mhm.
ended up putting family members that were being cared for in a dangerous position because they were communicating boundaries that weren't really there,
Mhm.
or weren't appropriate for what was needed at the time. So
Yeah.
I'm curious how one navigates that if you're on the receiving end of the big
Yeah.
model,
Yeah.
but you're finding that what's being communicated isn't exactly matching
Yeah.
with
Well,
what needs to happen.
yes, for sure. So Elizabeth, one thing I'll say is that, there's the model of big, but like one of the words is integrity, which is like if you're setting a boundary that's not really based on your integrity, it's not the big model. It's boundaries for the sake of boundary. Boundaries in big hold our generosity and they hold our integrity, like that I can sleep at night. And so I there is the unfortunate reality, right? In this is why the linchpin of this is moral distress. We feel moral distress when there's not enough to go around. One, my heart and my advocacy mind goes out to you in that you weren't getting what you needed and you presumably had a service in place that should have been giving it. And part of that, is that a reality of there are services out there that unfortunately disappoint us, even in ways that like don't feel like integrity on their part. We know customer service where they say like this was a mistake, we're really sorry, and this is the reality, right? And then there's another one where it feels like not integrity. So, there's not really like a logistical thing. What do you do? But except to say like, I'm not sure it's big if it's not based on integrity. Because integrity, like, we can all say this doesn't feel good, but I get it, right? And that's something maybe different. So I don't know if that speaks to your experience a little bit more.
It does. Thank you for that insight.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Amber, I know you put in the chat you'd like to share. And then I think that'll be the last question. I'll hand it back. Yeah, Amber.
So I've learned that sometimes, even though you have certain boundaries, sometimes for the sake of the client or resident or the older person, sometimes you have to break those boundaries down. And I'll give you an example. So I'm currently a caregiver for a disabled veteran, and he has no family, right? And he's bedbound. And when I got here, there was letter after letter, mail after mail saying that they're going to shut off his electricity, his house is in foreclosure, and they're going to throw him out. And so the first thing I did was I went to my supervisor and I said, hey, this is a problem. This is a situation. They can't help him. So I went to the VA. They can't help him either. So I thought, okay, even though I have other priorities, for example, like I have a nonprofit that's in its infancy stage, it's in development. My time has to be prioritized there. However, I could not in all good conscience let this man get evicted from his home that he's lived in for the past 20-30 years. And he does have some slight dementia, so he's unable to make those payments.
Yeah,
so
Amber, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And this is where when I talk about boundaries, sometimes people give examples like this. I'm like, well, that might not actually be about, there's professional, I don't think you're talking about violating your professional boundaries as in, but you're saying like, I went above and beyond. And I say, we start with generosity and integrity. And if you don't have a limit, then the sky is the limit. Keep going. You don't need a boundary. I don't teach boundaries for the sake of boundaries. What I actually teach boundaries for is for the sake of generosity. And when we've been what looks like generous, but that we've actually overextended ourselves, then that's a cost to us. And we kind of like lose our generosity, right? What you're describing, Amber, sounds like generosity and integrity that didn't need a boundary on it. The boundary is like when we're being asked too much. And so I think you are right. Whenever we can be more generous, whenever we can go kind of above and beyond a bit, by all means we should. What I'm talking about is when we actually can't, when doing this is costing something else that we don't want to give up. Otherwise, it's called a choice, right? Like if I'm choose to spend my time this way, I'm choosing to not do it this way. And as long as I'm good with that, I don't need a boundary. But if I'm choosing A when I really wanted to do B and now I'm mad about B, that's the indication. That's why I say the first thing we start with is what is our feeling about this?
Which leads me so because I assisted him with those things, there was kind of like an expectation that I do more each week.
Okay.
So I did, for example, I need you to become my POA. And I'm like, I barely know you. I really cannot.
There's a boundary. You found it. Yeah. And so I think the both and is really helpful here, Amber, of saying, I was happy to do that. And that's probably as far as I'm going to be able to go. Right. And while I can do that, while I wish that I could do that, my worry is, so wish and worry are often good models. Yeah, you hit the boundary, but the first one was free of charge. Second one, you're like,
my explanation was that if I commit to this 24/7, then I cannot sustain my role as your caregiver long term.
Exactly. Protecting your generosity. You got it. You hit it. Amber. Yes, I see a little round of applause going. That's great. It's really good. Well, I really want to thank you all for having me. Again, connecting from East Coast to West Coast, and for this dialogue that we were able to have as well. Really appreciate the back and forth. I know that this is kind of being very real to what we experience. We sometimes don't like to feel, we think like person-centered must mean that I'm not a part of the equation, when in fact, I think when we make ourselves part of the equation, we become better at taking care of people and our responsibilities. So thank you all so much. And I'll want to hand it back for the next things you have on your agenda.
Thank you very much, Marie. This was fantastic. If we can please give Marie a virtual round of applause. This was fantastic, very timely subject. And I love what you said about boundaries protect my generosity. And also, I really liked hearing boundaries for the sake of generosity. Absolutely. You know, my moral distress is when I know that this person, the way they're communicating with me, the way they're, you know, asking for things and wanting things, I know that they have probably faced people ignoring them, people dismissing them, and that's when my generosity, this is when the generosity kicks in and says, I'm going to help this person because I know they've been bounced around. I know they've been ignored. They've been, the frustration that I hear in the voice, I mean, just motivates me to be more generous. But I'm glad that you said we don't have to have that boundary just for the sake of having it. And in these situations that I just talked about is especially when I do tell myself, no, in this case, it's okay because I can see how this person could have been dismissed by the previous person they talked to and the runarounds that they get, and information and referrals. So my only regret is that this was only 1 hour long. I wish we could schedule this for this topic for 2 to 3 hours. This is so good. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Thank you again, Marie. This was a fantastic presentation. I have so much to take away from this and apply it professionally and personally, and with my group here of colleagues, action teams. So much to take away. Thank you again, Marie. Appreciate your time. One more round of applause, please. Virtual round of applause. Marie, you're welcome to stay with us. We're gonna
Yep.
go on to some last announcements about upcoming. I believe Elizabeth's next with action team updates. She's going to tell us the amazing work that we've been doing, the team has been doing here. So take it away, Elizabeth.
Hi. So we have quite a few action teams, which will be on the next slide, and I'll give a plug for each of them. But one of our action teams is the advocacy action team. And we do work advocating at the state, regional, and in this case, national level for resources and policies that impact older adults, those with disabilities, and caregivers in the Inland Empire. And so we participated on May 7th in the CCLTSS Advocacy Day. And so the Inland Coalition on Aging is part of a larger coalition in the state of California called CCLTSS, California Collaborative for Long-Term Services and Supports. And they advocate for long-term services and supports, HCB, home and community-based supports, enabling people to age in their homes, and if they're disabled or become disabled, to stay in their homes. Over time, it's the cheaper option. It's also the option that a lot of more people tend to prefer. So we spoke with and advocated with Senator Serrato, Representative Calvert on the national level, Senator Valdares, Senator Gomez-Reyes, Assemblymember Castillo, Assemblymember Wallace, and Assemblymember Gonzalez. And then today, this morning, we actually just spoke with Representative Aguilar. And these were all really good conversations advocating for these resources. So if you're interested in participating in advocacy on this level, please reach out to info@inlandaging.org. And like I was saying, we have quite a few action teams, and these action teams are helping the Inland Coalition on Aging implement the Inland Empire Master Plan for Aging. And the goal is not to recreate the wheel. The goal is simply to take the programs and projects that are already being done within Riverside and San Bernardino counties and support them, to advocate for them, to promote them, and to help build them and garner the support of coalition members. And we have action teams that focus on housing, which meets the second Tuesday of the month, 9 to 10. Caregiving, Alzheimer's, and dementia, meeting the second Wednesday of the month, 11 to 12. Behavioral health and social support, meeting the third Tuesday of the month, 1:30 to 2:30. The safety, respect, and equity team, which meets the second Tuesday of the month, 3 to 4. Yay, Dakota! She's on the Behavioral Health and Social Support Action Team. And then we also have the Advocacy Action Team meeting on the second Friday of the month, 10 to 11. And we have our Transportation Action Team, which is beginning to meet quarterly, beginning in June. So if you're interested in any of these topics, please feel free to reach out to info@inlandaging.org to join a team. And then we also have two action teams that are seeking particular elements. We have chairs that are being sought for the Safety, Respect, and Equity Action Team and the Advocacy Action Team. And then the Behavioral Health and Social Support Action Team is also looking for participants that come from senior centers, from the cities, from parks and rec departments, and also from religious organizations that could support the work that's being done, which is intergenerational focused. So if you're interested in joining, please definitely reach out. We'd love to have you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I just want to reiterate, can you go back 2 slides for the list of elected officials? I just want to make sure everybody caught this, how impressive this list is. This coalition is moving the needle. This coalition is involved, is engaged, is actually speaking to elected representatives about the issues here in the Inland Empire. So I was just impressed. You know, many times we get to talk to one representative, one supervisor, one senator. I mean, look at this list. Very impressive. Thank you to the action teams that are doing this work. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your leadership there. I'm pumped up. I'm pumped up. It's pumping up my generosity. So thank you so much, team, for doing this. Doing a great job, action teams. Next, thank you, Elizabeth. Next, we have Carmen, who's going to give us a quick update. Or no, did we? There we go. Exciting news.
Yes, so happy to announce that we've been awarded, the Inland Coalition on Aging has been awarded a 2026 AARP Community Challenge Grant. So I don't know if you remember, but last year we were designated, the Inland Empire was designated as an age-friendly community. We are, I would say, one of 3 only age-friendly communities across the state of California, but we are one of many across the nation.
How many applied? Wasn't it in the thousands,
It was
Carmen,
it
that
was
applied?
5,500 applied.
5,500
And I
applied.
believe they funded 75, and so we're one of those. So it really is a
Wow.
750 were awarded. I was close. I just was missing the zero. And so with these funds, stay tuned. The ICA is going to be hosting disaster preparedness trainings across both counties, Riverside and San Bernardino counties. This effort is going to be led by the Safety, Respect, and Equity Action Team. So if you want to participate, please join the action team. They're going to be working on putting these together. We have a short window to put these presentations on, starting in June, probably July, all the way up to December 15th. So please, if you're open to coordinating with us some of these trainings, let us know. We want to get the word out about disaster preparedness. We hear so many things happening. I mean, we just heard about that chemical thing that was happening in Garden Grove, right? And we know the fires and the winds in our area and earthquakes. So it's really important for us to get our older adults prepared. We're going to be encouraging people aged 50 and older to participate in these trainings. And we look forward to working with you. Again, very excited to be awarded this grant. And that's the announcement. And then our next meeting is going to be June 23rd, 2026. 11 to 12. So see you in a month. And once again, thank you so much to our presenter. It looks like everybody really enjoyed these types of presentations. So we hope to have more of these kinds in the near future.
Thank you, everyone. And remember to go out and look for the best part of growing older, identify it, see it, live intentionally. Thank you for all that you do to ensure that older adults, people with disabilities, and caregivers can age well in the Inland Empire. Take care, everyone.